I'm willing to bet you money that we can probably all think of that one person who is on social media and they're constantly posting about their haters. My haters this, my haters that. And I think we all side eye this person because in reality, we all know that those haters that this person continuously talks about, they don't exist. I mean, basically, this person is just posting subliminal messages to their imaginary haters and convincing us all that there are these tons of people who are just in their ear or in their text messages or their DMs, hating on whatever it is that this person is doing. So I'm typically that person that just side eyes them as well. But lately, I've had to kind of do some, I guess, self reflection and looking at my own life and realize, I had to ask myself, what imaginary situations am I letting stop me from being great? And for me, the answer has to do with a diagnosis that I received about 5 years ago, but something that I've been dealing with for the past 17 years. In 2012, my husband and I began a long distance relationship. So he was actually still deployed when we began, talking regularly. And so I recall him on the phone one day. He had asked me about my hair. We met in college, so he had seen me before. I had hair, plenty of hair still in college. And so I didn't wear sew-ins or anything like that. And he had seen me in person, obviously, but he hadn't seen me in 7 years. And so he had seen pictures, recent pictures and things, and he was curious, was my hair real or fake? And I remember him asking, and, I never hid the fact that I wore a sew-in. I just told him, yeah, it's a sew-in. It's kind of my thing. I love it. No big deal. I didn't reveal to him at the time why I was wearing sew-ins, but he definitely knew that that was a sew-in. And so I think by now, if you know me, even if you don't know me, I'm telling you that hair talk and me don't really go well together. So I never, like I said, I never told anyone I did a big chop. Like I never did anything to bring attention to my hair because I knew that where that conversation would go, and so I never talked about it. And so he didn't have a problem with me wearing sew-ins, but I think that he was just very encouraging in letting me know that, you should wear your natural hair. Like, why not wear your natural hair? So in July of 2013, it was July of 2013, after Vic and I had already gotten engaged, that I started wearing my natural hair again. So it was thick enough, still thick enough, and even long enough. So length has never been an issue. Retaining length because of the alopecia and just the condition of my hair, not going to the hairdresser at all. Really, I always took care of my own hair again because I didn't want to be in a salon with other people around and seeing what's going on with my hair. And so retaining the length in some areas was always an issue, but growing it out, even now it comes down pretty long on the parts that are still there. So so at that time I had no issue wearing my real hair, and I just continued to have that same bald spot in the back, but I knew how to cover it up. And eventually I did experience where the crown of my head started thinning as well, but still I was able to manage the way that I wore it. Vic and I married in 2013, September of 2013, and it wasn't until a year later, could be, give or take a couple of months, that I actually revealed to him that I was losing my hair. And I still hadn't gone to the dermatologist. Again, I had not faced that reality that this is what was really going on. But I knew what the culprit was. I self-diagnosed, probably did a little Google doctor search and knew, exactly what was going on. But again, I was very familiar with the disease. There was never a need for me to guess what it was. Now, I didn't know what type I had. And so eventually down the line, I began to learn of the different types of alopecia. But I knew for sure that, you have alopecia, ma'am. Like, you have it, so I just didn't do anything about it. So I eventually made an appointment to see the dermatologist in 2014. Again, this is like a year after we had gotten married. And this was, again, the first time that I had ever seen a dermatologist. And mind you, this started back in high school. I graduated high school in 2002. So that tells you how long in between, the first sight or the first sign and the first time I actually went to seek help for it. So I had a biopsy on my scalp performed in the back of my head and at the crown. And there's a tool that they take, and it takes a very small circle of your scalp, like a very, it's smaller than my pinky finger, but it takes like a chunk of your scalp out. I don't remember if I got the results back right away or not, but I think even the doctor doing the biopsy immediately knew the type that I had. And so I was diagnosed, once the results came back, I was diagnosed with centrifugal cicatricial alopecia. I know that I just messed that up, but we're just going to call it CCCA. Okay. So, and that's the official term, CCCA. That's the official acronym that people use. No one says all those long words. And so there are several types of alopecia, and I'm not going to get into all the different types of alopecia. If it's something that you're really curious about, there's tons of information out there. But CCCA is a form of scarring alopecia where your actual hair follicles are scarred. And so you can actually feel your scalp feels thicker in those spots where you have lost hair. And it's one of the forms that is the hardest to get your hair to grow back because of the scarring. And so there are lots of different things out there. I'm part of some groups, even on Facebook, that and you may even see products on commercials, and they claim to tell you, that this works for that, and that, different things that you can try, but none of them, there's not one thing that works for every person. And that's the hard part, is so, you find yourself buying all the oils. This oil claims to do that, and try this diet, and there's so many different things. But, that doctor that day that I got diagnosed, he literally said, only God can grow follicles. Those were his exact words. And, I remember saying to him, thankfully I know him. And so just from that point on, even though I had been dealing with this for many years, I can't even say if it was something that I had prayed for or even prayed about until I've received that actual diagnosis. So the doctor started me on a form of antibiotic. And it's so funny because as I tell other doctors about this, it's the antibiotic that they give soldiers when they're deployed. I think it treats malaria, but for whatever reason, this doctor, it was a military doctor who diagnosed and treated me, and I was put on that medicine. And of course, I ended up getting pregnant while I was on this medicine. And so I don't even remember if I was getting seeing a bunch of hair growing back, or if I was seeing results or not. But I knew as soon as I went to the doctor, of course, I tell them what I'm on because I'm pregnant, going to take a pregnancy test. And I'm informed the nurse that they ask you, are you on any medications? And I tell her, and immediately she's like, oh my God, how long have you been taking this? When did you stop? And I'm trying to remember the last time I took it. And I think something in me knew that I needed to stop once I found out that I was pregnant, but she basically said that whatever it is, it can cause, she was really concerned, but it can cause your kids to be born, it can make their teeth black or whatever it was, it just can cause adverse effects on the baby. During pregnancy, I experienced unbelievable hair growth that most women do experience during pregnancy. My hair was literally, it was thriving around those bald spots, and it was comforting. I felt good, that my hair was growing and it was getting long, and the bald spots hair was not regrowing in those bald spots, but again, around the bald spots, like I said, my hair was thriving. And so I had heard about women losing hair after pregnancy. That was something that I obviously saw in just, everything you read and hear about being pregnant. And I remember thinking to myself, I definitely cannot tolerate CCCA and postpartum hair loss jointly. And so, of course, the thought of that, it was scary because I knew one was natural and then the other was just a disease that, neither of them I could control. And so Of course, at about 3 months postpartum, they both took over my hair like never before. And I was losing so much hair on wash day that it was pretty sickening. And just to see, so much hair, especially because at the time that I was later in my pregnancy and even after pregnancy, I was still wearing my hair like this. And so when you wear your hair naturally curly, you don't comb it every single day, and I don't think I was even washing it every single day, but I definitely was not combing it every day. So of course, on the wash day, on the day that I chose to wash my hair, when you finally do go to comb it out, you're going to naturally lose. It's going to appear that you're just losing all your hair because you haven't combed it in so long. And so normally, if you're combing or brushing your hair each day, it's natural to kind of have some shedding. But for me, it was an astronomical amount of hair. And I remember even one day saving it in a bag just to kind of see and compare, the difference in between, washes and kind of along the way to see if it was changing or anything like that. But it was significant. So by this time, I mean, my body's changing and hormones are all over the place and my hair is falling out. And so, of course, my self-esteem absolutely began to plummet. And I wouldn't say I was depressed, but I'm a very much so a control freak. And so I'm very aware of my emotions, and I'm very protective of those emotions and in control of those emotions. And so I don't allow myself to really get to a place of depression, and I definitely don't allow myself to be exposed in front of anybody. But I was definitely going through it. And of course, I just had the fear that I was going to go completely bald. That was the fear that I had, and it was not good for my confidence and my self-esteem. And so the issue is, though, of course, while pregnant and nursing, you cannot be treated for alopecia with any of the traditional types of treatments, the steroid shots, anything oral injections. I mean, there was absolutely nothing that I could do while pregnant and nursing. And so I was essentially just left to combat the hair loss through natural oils or products that natural products that claimed to help you regrow follicles. Nothing seemed to really help or combat the hair loss. And I didn't notice any, real change. So I continued to wear my hair in a curly poof, this natural curly poof thing. And it was, I guess, comforting because, again, I went natural years before it was popular, but now it was popular. And so most people, this was a common thing, was to see, people with the pineapple on top of their head, even though my pineapple is not the same. Now, it was much different back then than it is even today, but, it definitely was. I was able to blend in a little bit more. I didn't look odd for having this style. And so the sad part, though, is that this was one of two styles that I could confidently wear without exposing my secret diagnosis. And so inside, I felt terrible. I felt ugly. I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel confident in any way. I didn't feel cute. I just didn't feel good. And the reality of my hair being gone, it was truly taking a toll on me, and I was suffering alone and in secret. Like I said, I had family members that had been diagnosed with the disease, but I didn't even really talk to them about it much because I just I wasn't in denial at that point, but I guess I just assumed that it wasn't necessary to really reach out to anyone because it's not going to bring my hair back, and so I think that's kind of the space that I was in for quite some time. I think by now my aunt knew, my husband knew, and my immediate family members knew that I had been diagnosed, but I was still so ashamed and I was still embarrassed. And of course, I experienced jealousy of just seeing other women and just being able to, wear their hair natural and do all these different styles and wear their hair in all these different ways. And I knew that for me, that was just not an option, without wearing some sort of, hair extensions. It was just not an option. So it definitely was it was tough. It was a very, very tough time. But if you knew me and, during that time, you would have no clue, because that just wasn't something that I was letting people in on. So I stopped nursing Mackenzie in March of 2016, and I had planned to start treatment back up again. But then we got orders to move to Germany. And so that kind of was another period. I had 3 months between stopping nursing her and getting our stuff, our lives transitioned to move to Germany. And me getting to the dermatologist it never happened. And again, I probably could have made something happen in those 3 months, but I think I had just, again, gotten complacent and convinced myself that, what's the use of me starting a treatment and then I have to get to Germany and start all over. And so I opted out of going. By the time we were settled in Germany, it was September, and I popped up pregnant again. So this is again in 2016. So I ended up pregnant again with my son, Braden. And of course, I was happy with the potential hair growth that was going to come during pregnancy, but my hair was in such a bad condition at that time, again, because I just I hadn't taken care of it. I didn't know how to take care of it. I wasn't seeing a stylist for it. And I was essentially just neglecting the hair that I did have, and I didn't appreciate it clearly. I knew that I had to implement a new cover-up method. And living in Germany, I knew that I did not have access to the same hairstylist. There were a few hairstylists that worked with natural hair in Germany, but for the most part, it was hard to find someone that could actually take care of my hair. And so I never even, saw anyone out. Of course, my aunt's back in the States. And so I had no other options, or at least I had convinced myself that I had no other options. And so I decided to try a wig. In March of 2017, I purchased my first wig from myfirstwig.com. And it actually was a really nice wig. And I decided that I would wear it for our pregnancy announcement photos. And when I put that wig on, it just made me feel so much better about myself. And I felt a little bit of that confidence, kind of coming back. And I didn't feel like everyone was staring at my, thin, frail hair on top of my head. And I think that's when I realized how much of a connection my self-worth had to my hair. And at the time, to be honest, I didn't care. Like, it is what it is. Like, it's connected to my hair. Yes, I feel terrible when, I don't have this wig on, and when I do have it on, I feel like I have a little bit of myself back. And I was fine with that. And, I felt cute again, and that was all that mattered. So the only issue I had was people seeing me, people I knew who were seeing me, and all of a sudden I go from pretty much this look to having this, long, flowing, beautiful, gorgeous, hair. And I didn't announce that I was wearing a wig. And so it wasn't like I was telling people, hey, next time you see me, I'm going to have a wig on. It was literally just this to wig. And so that was a drastic change coming from me, because people had not been used to seeing me do different spunky things with my hair. And so I was convinced that everyone that I ran into was staring at my wig, looking at my wig, judging me, and, drawing their own conclusions on what is going on with her. Why does she have this random wig on all of a sudden? Even though I didn't like the attention, or at least the perceived attention, again, I thought everybody was looking at my wig. And so I realized that I didn't have a choice. And it was either wear my thinning hair out or wear the wig. And obviously I chose the wig. I was anticipating the pregnancy hair growth to kick in at some point, and I actually chose to do a secret big chop. And again, not making an announcement. I maybe told my best friend and maybe some family members or something, but it was just something that, I did. I think I was about 5 months pregnant when I decided to do that. And I cut all my hair off. It was short, like a little baby mini fro, like maybe an inch long. I could barely braid it. So even wearing a wig, I don't like all the cats and stuff under wigs. Again, I'm not like a professional in any way. So probably was wearing it wrong, but I didn't have to do anything to my hair. I just put a wig on top of the fro because it was just so short the way that I had cut it. So, but at this point, I was fully committed to wearing a wig, and I knew that the way that I had cut my hair, nobody, not a soul, was seeing that baby fro. I can tell you that now. There was no one that saw it. So nobody knew. So during that time, my hair definitely grew, and I had no issue again with the length, but I was still not seeing regrowth in the balding areas. And so again, I'm still pregnant, so there's nothing I can do about it. So I continued to wear a wig even through pregnancy and after my son was born. And then one random day, I can still remember the day that I was washing my hair. It was in October 2018. So this was, my son was over, he was over a year old at that time because he was born in May. So he was over a year old, and I was washing my hair. It had grown, by this point. Again, I told you I never had an issue with length, and I decided just randomly, I think I was about to start braiding it up, and then something said, just wear it out. Just try it, wear it out. And so I don't even know if I had products at this time for wearing my natural hair curly, because of course, it takes a lot of products to have it look halfway presentable. But I just went with it. Though I didn't feel one bit of beauty, not one bit beautiful, I knew that this was a step in the right direction. And I knew that it was a good thing for me to take that wig off. The only issue is that now I was subconscious to stepping out into public again with my 4C natural hair, having been wearing a silky human hair wig for over a year. And when I tell you, I'm kind of like an extrovert introvert. The introvert part of me would have rather just stayed inside, hid under a rock, not seen anyone, than to actually step out and allow people to see, my natural hair again in its fully engrossed alopecia, if that's even a word, state. Now, fast forward to November of 2019. It was hard for me back then, and it is still hard for me, and I really only wear my hair out like this at certain times, I guess, like if it's freshly washed, or just, I don't know, just kind of have a moment where I'm feeling cute, I'll wear it. But it's really this or a new bun style, a new high bun style that I've decided to try. I was able to find Marley hair, and I can essentially just add that to my hair and wrap it up into a high bun. And honestly, I feel much better. And so that's really my go-to style, is the high bun right now. Sidebar, if you are listening and you're hearing a lot of terms that are not familiar to you, the 4C, the Marley, the sew-in, the protective style, or whatever, some of these terms, big chop, I would suggest that you refer to Urban Dictionary. They will answer all of your questions if you are lost.